I'm Mary.
And I'm Joe.
And we're bookbuds. And today we are going to be talking about 3 books by the author Khaled Hosseini. And Joe is going to be telling us which one he thinks is the best at the end of the video. So if you haven't read this author yet, you'll learn a little bit about each of the books and which one you might want to start out with.
They're all devastating.
Yeah, I read one and it broke my heart.
I was thinking about you reading this.
You're like, how did Mary survive that?
Yeah. It's just...
They're painful.
Tragic.
Yeah.
They're painful, yeah.
All 3 are set in Afghanistan because the author's roots are from Afghanistan. And each one is just filled with a really tragic story. I read the synopsis of the other 2, but for Kite Runner, I remember just how tragic it was. And
Yeah, I really liked reading these books because it was enlightening to learn about a culture so different from our own. And I think that this author did a wonderful job at that, and just highlighting the struggles that they go through living in that area of the world.
Mm-hmm. So which one are you going to talk about first?
Well, let's go with the Kite Runner.
All right, Kite Runner. This was the first one that he wrote. Maybe I could talk about this one because I did actually read this one. I read this one back when it came out, and there was a lot of hype around it. So the main character in this story is a boy in Afghanistan, and you read about some of the struggles that he goes through living there, being a kid, and just having bullies that are around in the neighborhood and having different levels of citizens in the community. So you get this child's experience of different classes that were in Afghanistan at the time, and coming through the child's perspective, he ends up doing some things that are wrong, basically, mistreating someone, and you just, as a reader, I felt so bad. It's a sad story.
Mary, why do we do that?
Why do we do what?
As humans, you have a group that is suppressed by society, and then there's always in-group prejudices.
Yeah.
It's like why are we terrible things? Humans can create such beautiful things, and then they could just be horrible.
Yeah.
That so bothers me whenever I hear about that.
Well, I think most people in the world are capable of being pretty terrible, ourselves included. You don't, maybe not intend to be, but everyone is made up of good and bad, I think. And so in this child's experience, you see the good and the bad, and then he grows up, and the story kind of weaves in and out. The Soviets are invading Afghanistan, they have to flee. He leaves to go to the United States, so the story progresses to the point where it's 26 years later, he's all grown up. But then some of the people that he's had contact with in his childhood weave back into his life. And there's some surprises and twists in the story about who they are and what role they'll have in his life. And the ending, honestly, I read this book so long ago, I had to reread the synopsis, and it woke it right back up for me. When I read the synopsis and got to the ending, I had chills while I was reading just the synopsis, because what the author did at the end and where he brought it kind of did a full circle back around. I'm feeling chills right now. It was really very moving. It was a very moving, very tragic book.
Yeah, it's quite a story. Betrayal, and then guilt his whole life, and then the ending. Of course, we're not going to give away, but whew.
Yeah.
This is a good one.
Very, very good book.
Yeah. And see how it brings up different conversations. Bookbuds, we don't usually talk about all these kinds of things.
Yeah. we don't get that deep.
It's touching on all these different topics.
Yeah. All right, so the second one he wrote was which one?
Okay, so the follow-up was 1,000 Splendid Suns. Now this is a little bit different. This is about a relationship between 2 women in Afghanistan, and it's just as tragic, and it's horrible, and it's really sad. But 2 women, without giving too much away, bond through abuse. They're abused by the same man, and they have very different roles in the household, and it's just, at one point they're against each other, and then they kind of find comfort in one another finally. So again, this author just creates such a picture, and I remember when I finished this book just how moved I felt, and it sticks with you.
And then the last one, when was this last one written?
So, and the mountains echoed. Waited so long for this one. I don't know. Let's find out, Mary.
Okay.
Mary wants to know when it was written.
And I'll tell you when the first one came out. All right, so this one was 2003,
2007, and 2013.
And we're waiting for another one to come out. So what was the third one like?
Okay, and The Mountains Echoed is about a family divided, and it starts off with a couple having to choose which child to give away in order to save the other three, which is obviously a horrible decision to have to make. So as the story continues, we see more division within this family as people go their separate ways, lots of loss and pain as they struggle to reconnect in their lives. And even when they do reconnect, it's not a happily ever after story. There's still so much tragic and loss involved.
I imagine any book that this author is going to write, even in the future, is going to be filled with a lot of tragedy. That's the style. So if you want to read a book where you are really emotionally involved, like if we were rating these books for emotional involvement, it would be a 10 for sure. You are absolutely going to be emotionally involved when this author is writing.
Right, so I'm kind of torn on my favorite. I'm really torn between The Kite Runner and 1,000 Splendid Suns, but ultimately I think I'm going to have to go with the follow-up, 1,000 Splendid Suns. This did stick with me for a while, and just the story between these two women, it's really quite something. So pick it up if you haven't read it.
I might have to check it out since I only read The Kite Runner.
Yes.
Let us know if you've read this author and if you have a favorite of the three.
And if you're enjoying BookBuds, give us a thumbs up.
And share us with your friends.
And subscribe to our channel, BookBuds!
I should have put this out there.
I love my book buds. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe.
So as the story...
Wait, I was making a face.